of numeric. Now remember, there have been the targets or an assignment which we have already spelled out somewhere as regard to what we want to achieve. I don't know if I wrote it down or I dictated it. Okay, here, good, thank God. So under preparing column for modeling, but we started looking at how to prepare rows. So after the end of preparing rows, we started looking at preparing columns for modeling. Now, don't forget, I told us that the whole essence of all this we are doing is for us to be able to perfect our data sets so that it can be passed into analysis or analytics model, particularly predictive analytics model. And I said it is important, it is essential that we perform what we call rows granularity, which is simply a process in machine learning that we involve in order to reduce the height of our data and thereby increasing the width of the data as the case may be. So we started looking at how do we reduce the rows in our data sets. So if you look at this, initially we were having about 600 records. If you check, we're having about 600 record when we did .shape, and then we were able to reduce it to 150, which is this particular output here, by applying one of the most used methods for row granularity called .pivot. Remember, we also use a .group by. So now this is where we started looking at how do we now attend to the column, because there are issues also that need to be attended to also in the column. So you don't just perfect what you have on the rows, you also take into consideration the structure of your column. So in trying to attend to the columns, we highlighted all this as part of what we shall be looking at. And I said, after setting the rows granularity, you need to also prepare your column for modeling, because this actually offers us different set of skills. So the skills and the method or the functions that are involved in row granularity are actually different from the ones involved for column preparation. So we categorize the operations we want to perform under preparing the column for model or modeling into two. The first one I said we'll be looking at all value. In other words, how to convert all values to make sure that all value within the given data frame are non-null, which means that what? We make sure that there is no missing value. Now, the second, under this category, we are going to perform we are going to be identifying missing value or non-value using .info. As we already know, .info summarizes the whole details about our data frame, and then from there, from each presentation, we should be able to know whether we have missing value or not. So we are going to resolve them by either removing them or imputing new values, which is exactly where we are now. Now, I think we are about to start this particular section, this task 2 under preparing your column for modeling. That is exactly where we are now. Now, under this, I highlighted that we'll be looking at 3 things. One, we look at converting field from text data type to numeric data type. We'll also look at turning field into numeric field using conditional logic with numpy.where. All these are method or functions. They will also look at turning categorical field into numeric field using dummy variable. So everything we are going to discuss this morning, I'm very sure there's going to a structure within number 2. So here, identify missing value using the .info. So we have already started attending to some of them. So we have already done number 1. This is where we applied number 1, where we had identified missing value. And then the output we got when we ran the .info, you can see that the numbers of columns listed here and the number of records under each of them. Some are reading 8, some are reading 6, some are reading 5, which is a clear, how do I put it? Which is a clear indication that there are some columns where we have missing values. So how do I know? Like the names under column, this is saying that we have 8 records under name column. Now under age is reading 6, which means that there are 2 missing value there. Under followers is indicating 5, which means that there are 3 what? Missing value there. All right. Now this is where we decided whether we want to. This is where we actually find out by using the ISNA method, where wherever it had put true shows that there is a missing value, where it had put false shows that there is no missing value. A number is there. Now, this is where we display only rows with which is the one you just said. I explained. So what I wanted to hear from you, one of the core reasons why we apply this is that we know for a fact that when we load a very large data set, the notebook is unable to display all. So at some point, it will wrap, in other words, fold some record. So we don't want to assume that there are no missing value, because the missing value can be within that particular area that is wrapped. So to avoid that, we deploy these 2 functions. This one is the one that we identify them. This one is the one that we pull them out and display only rows where at least under any of the column there is or there are missing values. So that is how we called out this particular header. Now, the next thing is, so before deleting or replacing the missing value, we try to save a copy, which I advise us as data scientists is something you must do before you start analyzing your data. You are expected to keep the original copy. And what I was trying to show us is just this, just for you to know that there is a method or function that can help you to copy. You know, if I don't want to use this method, all I will do is to receive that data set with another word name. I can just say customer 4 and pass in the same data set. That is another way. Now here, to resolve the missing value, we use a .fina to tell Python that anywhere there is NaN or anywhere a number is missing, fill it with what? 0. That's what we did there. Then here we drop it. We drop based on rows. Here we drop based on column. And then this is where we are. Now, let me just transfer this topic. Where are we now? Let me see, from one of those cells where I highlighted here. So we have considered all the ones under category 1. So let me just copy the whole of this. This is where we are starting from. I hope you agree with me that this is where we are starting from. Okay, so we are starting from here. And here we highlighted that we want to learn how to convert field from text data to numeric data. Now, I would like us to, let me see if I can be fast with the writing, or at some point I will dictate, but let me see where we are now. Just a minute. So convert it to numeric. Converting to numeric, that is where we are now. Convert it to numeric. So which means that there are some fields that Python is currently recognizing their value as texts, and meanwhile, they are supposed to be number. So you can see if it is just at the stage of data analysis, not data science, most of these things does not matter there. But as far data science is concerned, or machine learning is concerned, all values must be in the right data type before the predictive machine model can actually give you accurate prediction. So the whole essence of all this that we are doing, because we understand the nature of the model, that we actually perform the analysis. So this is not the case of data analysis where you identify pattern, trend, and the outlier, and there be able to predict. But in data science or machine learning that we are learning right now, our motive is to perfect the data for a model to perform the predictive analysis. So all this that we are doing now, we are trying to make sure that we perfect, we structure the data in a way that it can be acceptable by the analytics model. So that is why I told us that in machine learning, we spend 80% of our time to perfect and to get the data in the right structure for the model. Because if you don't do that, then you have already planned to fail, because it is garbage in, garbage out. So if you give the model wrong data, you should be rest assured of getting wrong results. And that is the reason why we are spending this time to learn all these various techniques on how to suit our data with the analytics model. Okay, so now you are going to see what we are talking about. All this while that you are performing analysis, you may not have discovered all this, but you are going to discover something here. So let me start by, I give us a particular technique, how you can actually program, how you can duplicate your cell. I said just click on this and press letter B. Click on it and press letter B. Now, let's look at this notes. I wanted to dictate it, but this, since it's an online, let's take time so that we can document everything we need for proper understanding. So now is a note. Let me put it as a note that you need to know. So this actually happens whenever you load data into. So the note is that when you load or read, when you load or read data into a data frame, comma, pandas will often read in numbers or let me put it numeric field as, let me break it here so that we can understand, as tests, which also mean objects, data type. So what we are simply saying here is that anytime you read data into data frame, so when we say data frame, let me show you an example here. When we started here, because there are some terms we have to begin to understand. When we started here, this is a data frame. This is a data set which we constructed using Python dictionary, and then we save it in this DF data frame. So now it means that you read the whole of this into a data frame. So that is what we're talking about. That whenever you do that, or you read data, even there's another place again where we read data into data frame. Let me also show us here. Or is it the data? I thought we have read the customer. I think we're working with customer now. Okay. Another place where we read data into data frame. Is it the same data we are working? Anyway, so that explanation, we have entertainment here. Good. So this is another scenario where we read data into data frame. This is our data frame name. This is the data we read from a cell into it. Now, what we are saying is that this particular data that you read here, so we are going to use one of it as our case study. So let me just complete the note. So even though is not supposed, to, let's say supposed. Now, a practical example is, but before that, let's look at the recommendation. What can we use to resolve this? Okay, so just to add to it, you can use, so this is where I've recommended the function you will use to convert it from text, which is the same thing as object, back to the number, which is supposed to be the right format. So you can use pd dot to underscore numeric. So this is actually the method we want to learn. So this is actually the function, the Python function we want to learn. So this Python function is used to convert the text field, the numbers I think I was correct before. The text field, that is the number that was read in as text and object back to what? Number. So to what? To numeric field.
My network was disconnected.
Okay, numeric field. So that is exactly what we are trying to achieve here. Now, just for you to understand whether truly there are some. So like I said before, if you look at this particular data sets, so if you look at this particular test, let's look at this particular data we are working, which is the customer. Let me check what I use in saving it. Okay, in this case now, I think in this case now, it becomes final one. Let's use final one. We have changed it. So let's look at this data set now. So let me just call back this so that to be closer to where we are. Remember the techniques I showed us the other time? If you want to display an existing variable name, instead of you retyping it, just type probably the first two letters and hit the tab button twice. It will list out all the name of keyword. So we are looking at final data. So I will just simply run it. Now we are using this particular data as an example. We are going to be focusing on the income. We are going to be focusing on the income column. The reason is that, like I just explained, that when data are read into Python data frame, this as in number or numeric value will be read as objects or text. So this was supposed to be number. Right? I want to get a response from you just to know if you are still here. These numbers under income are supposed to be number, right? Or
Yes.
good. Now, if you run your .info, so let's do it this way. Let's do it this way. So for example, now, let me use this. So let's verify whether we actually have data read here. Whether we have data read here as objects. So I will use comment to explain in case you want to make your note later. To verify if numeric data were read in as text or objects. So what I'm going to simply do here is to involve one of our data inspection technique, which means I will simply use .info to achieve that. So .info will list out all the columns and be able to tell me the type of data they are. So from there, I will know whether that's, I remember that here we are focusing on, in this case, focusing on income column. We are focusing on income column, which is supposed to be number, but it was read in here as different data types. So we are going to find out together now. So the syntax will be, we call the name of that data final data. then concatenate as usual info, and then let's run it. So like I said, we are focusing on income. So if you are focusing on income, let's check the type of data it interpreted it to be. This is income. So you can see objects. So instead of telling us that this number is reading it as objects, which means that income, if you pass this to analytics model, Python will read this as text. So where you are supposed to do some calculation, it will not be able to use them because they are not integer. For example, now in the model, if it's going to perform any form of prediction by multiplying this value by the value here, in as much this is still identified as object or text, Python will see it like yes. Okay, so that is the reason why, and the reason why Python is seeing this as not a number, because of the presence of the dollar sign and the word, the comma. You understand that? The dollar sign and the word, the comma, is the reason why Python could not interpret this to be integer. Let's check each where there is no dollar sign and where there is no comma. Python did not interpret that as objects, but instead float, which means that what? Float is a number with decimal points. So you can see 25.0, 19.0. So it read it accurately. But in the case of income, it could not read it as number. So we as data scientists, we know how to check all this by using the info to get information about the data type. So this type represents data type. So from here, we will know whether the data is in the right types before we can send it into our predictive analytics model. So as a data scientist, expect data to be given to you, and when you read them here, you might run into this kind of challenge. So if it happens, you cannot proceed, you can't go beyond this until you pause and correct it. And that is the reason why we are looking at this particular function now. So where you have that kind of issue, you call in this. Though there's another one we are going to learn, but for now, we are learning how to convert string to what? Numeric data type. So now that we have been able to confirm that through our .info, so therefore, let me add it here so that we won't have too many slides. So now that we confirm that there is, so therefore, to update, because that should be your next agenda. How are you going to update it? Because you can't continue with the data just the way it is. To update, therefore, to update, what are we updating? The income. Therefore, to update the income column. Therefore, to update the income column, use this syntax. So the syntax will be this. I want you to pay very good attention here because we are going to introduce some logic here now. So what we are going to do, the name of that particular data where you have the data frame, where you have the column you want to correct its value, you start by calling it, which is what? Final data. You call it like this. Then you select. Remember that square bracket means you are selecting from an entire container. You want to pull out. You want to focus on a particular column, which is the income I said we are focusing on. So income column is a string, so I have to put it in a string. And then to avoid typographical error, you can decide to bring the headers close to you. Okay, instead of you going to the data where it is, by just typing something like this. So you can just come here as usual. You can just say something like this. dot column dot columns, just to call out what the header close to you. So why it did not run? Because of this that we are trying to construct. So let me output it so that we can get the output ready. Dot column, final data dot column. So this supposed to have outputted. Okay. So what it did is to list out all the headers in that data set. So now I wanted to, let me comment this, because though I already have what I'm looking for. So why I outputted is for me to be precise with the entry of the column name, so I won't make mistake. So where I was writing, so I can come back here now and do final data, like I was saying before. You select, then you put it in a string. Okay, now you will now do equals to, pay attention here, equals to the final again, the final data, equals to the final data as the name of your data frame. Where you have the column with the wrong data type, you want to correct with what? pd.to underscore numeric function. Then you will now concatenate it. You concatenate it, that is using the period, with the header income, then concatenate it with string. So I will explain once I'm done with this, I think, but just be listening. Then dot replace. So we are combining different functions actually, and I will tell you the reason why we are doing this. So now, what are we replacing? The $sign that is attached to this. That is what you want to clear first before you convert to what? To number. You have to take away the $sign. There are two things we must take care of first: the $sign and the comma. Like I started by telling you, these are the reason why the data was not read as integer. Instead, it was read in as text or object because of this, and that is what you are trying to replace first. So what we are trying to do here is that this string dot replace is a method. String means what? You are about to talk to a particular data type, which is string. Now, what we want to do here, we will supply that $sign inside it in order to specify what exactly we want to replace in this column called income that we concatenated with this. Okay. Now, after that, you add a comma. After this string, you add a comma, then you open another string. But that string, we are not putting anything inside, which means that it's going to replace this with empty so that we don't have it anymore here. That is the logic. Now, but remember I said there are two things we are targeting to be eliminated from this column called income: the $sign and the $sign and the $sign and the comma. So here you have taken care of the $sign. So the expression here is that anywhere there is $sign, replace it what? Nothing, empty. That's the meaning. Now, how do we now capture the comma that we also want to replace? So we will also come outside here and concatenate. Then the same string dot replace again. Dot replace, then you open another bracket because you are targeting. If there are more than 3, this is how you now continue acknowledging them. Now, inside here, you bring in a string, you put that comma that you want to replace, just like the way we started by adding the $sign, then comma, then you now do another one like this here, which means that you are also leaving this one empty. So what you are saying indirectly, like what? Anywhere there is a comma in this column income that you are focusing on, it should locate it and replace it what? Nothing. So with this, you must have converted all the what? The the string that is actually making Python to read the whole of this data value as string to nothing for now. But that does not mean that you have converted them to integer. But this is just like a step that you must take in order to do away with those reasons why Python was not able to read it as integer. So once you have done this, you run your code. So if you run your code now, how do I know if this has actually been implemented? Number one, it has read the value here. Number two, let me put it here to check if Python has so like I was saying, I want to know if Python has eliminated the $sign and the comma. Let's call that data again, final data, and run it. You can see that what you have successfully removed the $sign and the comma. Is that clear? Let me get a response before we finalize it by changing the format. Did you understand what we did here now? Joseph, are you still here?
I understand.
Okay, so now the next we want to do is if you check that info again, you will discover that for the fact that you have silenced the $sign and the comma, that has not changed it from being read as what? Object. So if you want to find that now, let's add the .info again here. Let's run the .info. You see that income is still read as what? Object. So you can't stop here. What you did here was just to eliminate things that could be an obstacle. Now you proceed to performing the read operation. What actually led to this is converting a string to numeric using the pd.to_numeric method. So therefore, finally, to convert the object to numeric, the syntax will be so our syntax here will simply be, we call that final again, call the final data, then select the income using string, select the income, which is the column that you are still focusing on. Then you will now do equals to the PD. So this is where you are actually performing that conversion. PD.to_numeric. Remember, this was the function I mentioned that will be used to switch the data from string to what? Number. Then inside this function bracket, you call that final data again. Make sure you take note of the syntax. Then you now concatenate the income inside it, then before you close it, which means that you are passing in this data, focusing on the column income to this function so that it can convert it and then save it automatically into what? The main data set. So if I run this now and it does not output any error, so that is to say that the changes has been made. Now, if you want to verify now, call the data again. Want to know to verify if we have been able to convert the text field to numeric field. The syntax will be we'll call that data set again and do .info. Call the data frame .info. Let me just add it here, .info. Okay, so once we have done that, let's do it again. Final data .info. So if I run it, you check now. If you trace it, you will notice that it is now known as what? Integer. Exactly.
Yes.
Okay. So that is for that. Any question?
No question.
So, like I said, once you arrive at a final data like this, the next thing you are supposed to do is to save it to an extent, even though we are still on it, but at least you can save this one as. So let's save it as a genuine data set. Then save the converted data frame. So I can just say converted equals to. So what I will simply do is to copy the whole of this that converted it, Ctrl C, and then paste, run it. So whenever I want to see that one, I will just do converted, and then, okay, so it's sorry, it's not, we don't have to, because if we save now, it will save only the header. So what we are supposed to do here is to, now this one has been updated already, so we don't have to put it here. It has been updated. So if we run this, okay, so there's no need of saving it except you do copy. So to save it now is to copy. So let me say converted dot copy, and then I will just run it. So I have it here. So I have, sorry, converted equals to final coming. So final data. So I have, so now let me call that converted here now again. Okay, so perfect. So you can see that is why you need to understand that idea of copying. Okay, so now another topic will be, I would like us to stop here so that you can go and master this one, because if I go into another conversion now, it might confuse you. So just go and master this very one before the next class. So, but just to write, just to know what the topic we shall be looking at is, let me see. Our next topic shall be converted to dates. This is what we did now. We converted from string to number. So the next one we'll be looking at converting converting to dates, date time. Let's just put it that way. Convert it to date time. That will be our next topic. Okay, hope everything is clear. Do you have any question before we end the session?
No questions.
Okay, so that you will not tell me that you don't know that I give you assignment. So your assignment is to replicate the same thing that we did now. Did you understand me?
Yes, no problem.
All right.
Just I would still love to get the video as well.
Yes, I will
Let me
do
fix
that.
my
All right. Bye for now.